All right, let's get into it with the two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden and our guy Ryan Wilson. Fellas, exciting finish here in a game that could have been salted away there in the fourth quarter by the Denver offense, unable to get that last first down that they needed. Led to the Raiders driving down the field, tying the game up late in the fourth quarter, and then just one possession needed with Davante Adams scoring the game winner. B-Mac, I'll go your way first here because I know you have a lot of Davante Adams fantasy exposure, so I know you're riding high right now. What did this win mean, not to you, but to the Raiders at this juncture of the season as they try and salvage something?
Well, I think most importantly, this is all about Josh McDaniels. Mm-hmm. Even though the owner has come out to say he's good, he's safe, I find it hard to really believe that wholeheartedly. So just being able to win this ball game and sweep the Denver Broncos, going against a team that kind of have similar issues. You talk about Nathaniel Hackett not looking like he can handle the spotlight on the sideline. This just kind of gives the organization, the Raiders organization, that is just a little pulse, right? Mm-hmm. They're still pretty much dead, but they're like Weekend at Bernie's. You know, they're the dead body that's just moving around on the beach, moving around in the house. So they still have a little pulse. And most importantly, now we're starting to see the offensive identity that we thought we would see the entire year between Carr and Davante Adams. Their big three, well, if you want to input Carlson as well, the big four really showed up for the Raiders, and they needed every bit of production each individual was able to give them today.
Love the Bernie Lomax reference. You can never talk too much about Weekend at Bernie's. I didn't see that coming, B-Mac, I'll be honest with you. Hey, it's interesting that you mentioned Carlson as the big four, and I think that tells you something about how this offense has sputtered throughout the course of this season now into Week 11. But I tell you this much, if we see Derek Carr get emotional at the post-game press conference, it'll be tears of joy. Last week he was incredibly frustrated. And I think the takeaway is that this team, Mark Davis, they're behind Josh McDaniels. We've had the conversation about whether he's going to survive. He's going to survive. There are different conversations on the other sideline, of course. But I think you have to give this team credit for persevering. The start could not have been slower to this season. Even this game had sort of was a microcosm of what we've seen so far over the first 2 months and change, just with the ups and downs, the silly penalties, the mistakes. And I give the Raiders a lot of credit for sticking it out. And I think this won't be a turning point in the season, Joe, but it'll be a turning point perhaps in Josh McDaniels' career. Now, we'll see what happens with players as we go into next season. But for now, this is a good start. This is clearly the best game so far in this short Josh McDaniels tenure.
And I feel like we could almost copy and paste that sentence for the next question here on the Denver side of this equation, because it hasn't been good for Russell Wilson this season. He did look better in this game, look more in control of the offense, Ryan. Final line goes 24 of 31 for 247. Still no touchdowns, no interceptions, so plenty out in front of Russ. But do you feel like Sunday was a step in the right direction just in terms of the long-term relationship between that quarterback and that franchise?
Yeah, the thing is, and the reason I hesitated a little bit is because Russ's contract is structured in such a way that he ain't going anywhere. Mm-hmm. So this is a good sign in that sense. Like, at least the guy that you have is showing improvement. And part of the issue perhaps is Nathaniel Hackett giving up play calling duty. Clint Kubiak called the plays today, and it looked a little better. But there are no moral victories in the NFL, and this is a loss that shouldn't have happened. They threw on 3rd and 10 just inside the 2-minute warning. The Raiders had no more timeouts. Maybe this is, trying to reinvent history here, but maybe if you run the ball there, you chew up those 30, 35 seconds, and the Raiders don't have the opportunity to march down the field. Second guessing is going to change the thing now, but I think it's a step in the right direction. Cortland Sutton got involved. The defense flashed at times, but it wasn't as dominant as it has been all year. And I think the takeaway for me there is that you can't rely on your defense to shut out NFL offenses week in and week out, only allow 10 to 13 points. So baby steps for Russ Wilson and that offense, but they have to get a lot better.
And that's the issue. Baby steps is how you refer to his day in this matchup against the Raiders. We all believe Russell Wilson has a Hall of Fame-like potential when everything is all said and done. But week in and week out, since becoming a member of the Denver Broncos, it seems like more than none, the opposing quarterback has outperformed Russell Wilson. Think about this, guys. Joe, the way you initiate this question was, yes, it was a loss, but a pretty good day for Russell Wilson. How many touchdowns did he throw?
He got nothing. He had nothing.
Exactly. But you basically said this was a pretty good day for Russell Wilson. And I agree with you based on what we've seen in weeks past. There's been a big-time disconnect with Russell and the play calling that we're seeing in Denver for him to be the total opposite of what we've seen throughout his professional career. Heck, if you go back to his collegiate days at NC State, Russell Wilson has always been a very, very efficient quarterback and a quarterback that can capitalize in red zone opportunities. There's something going on in regards to why the rhythm, the chemistry is not there. And because of that, they have been one of the bigger disappointments in the National Football League. And I understand when you look at the opposite side, Josh McDaniels is safe. Do I believe he should be safe? No, but it seems to be he is safe. I can't say the same for Nathaniel Hackett. I can't at all.
It's one of those names that we're going to hear bouncing around, and we'll see how much support is behind him. We have not heard that same public voice of support behind Hackett at this point in the season, and he's got a lot of tools at his disposal here because you talk about what Russell Wilson's done in his career and what he's had. He's always had a great defense. He again has one here on this Denver team, and they've squandered those opportunities. I do want to pivot back to the Raiders here for one more because, however, he did not get to the end zone, but Josh Jacobs has been fantastic all season, not just on this Sunday. How have you seen him develop as a runner over these last few weeks? Let's say this season, B-Mac, because he went for 100-plus yards again here, 109 on 24 totes, which is right around his season average. It's been fantastic after coming off of 2 seasons that were, let's say, lackluster at best. What have you seen out of Jacobs, and how has he really improved as a player here near the end of his rookie contract?
Well, if I didn't know any better, watching Josh Jacobs this year, it seems like he's rocking the number 8 in the Alabama Crimson Tide uniform. That's why he was able to become a first-round draft pick, because the physical nature in which he displayed. He's always falling forward, and he was a big-time playmaker in that Crimson Tide uniform, and that's what we're seeing right now. I mean, when you look at his numbers, I mean, this is a guy who's a lock to potentially get 100 yards against any opposing defense he's playing against. And this Denver Broncos defense can play ball. That big-time reception he had in this ball game that led to the field goal opportunity, I think it was, to put the game in overtime was huge. He's become a guy that was kind of on the cusp of, will he be the starting quarterback for this organization the entire year? Because remember, in the preseason, in third quarters and fourth quarters, he was in the ball game. So it was like he was potentially a roster bubble, on the roster bubble, but yet and still, he has secured his spot in this organization. And the way he's performing, he's probably going to get extended in regards to his contract when everything is all said and done, regardless of what the final record is at the end of the season.
You know what's interesting about what you just said, B-Mac? The Raiders decided not to extend his 5th-year option. They didn't exercise that, so they're going to have to pay him probably a little more money. But here's something else to think about. That year they had 3 first-round picks. They took Jonathan Abram. They cut him. They took Cleve Farrell. He's basically a part-timer. He's not helping much as an edge rusher. And finally, they took Josh Jacobs. He's been the best of those 3 first-round picks. And we talk all the time about how you shouldn't waste a first-round pick on a running back. Turns out this was a good first-round pick, at least compared to his classmates in that draft class. And I think you're exactly right about what you said. He's incredibly important to this offense. And we talk about this being a passing league, but Josh McDaniels loves to run the ball. And Josh Jacobs made a couple of huge plays in terms of catching the football, too. That wheel route late in the fourth quarter is what set up that game-tying field goal. They had a chance to win that football game, didn't get it done in regulation. But I think Josh Jacobs has been invaluable in terms of what he brings to this offense and what the diversity is in terms of mixing up the run and pass, and also that Josh McDaniels leans on him. Everywhere Josh McDaniels been, he's had a workhorse running back. That remains the case in Las Vegas with Josh Jacobs.
And a workhorse he was, Josh Jacobs, the only running back with rushing yards on this Raiders offense here on Sunday, and it was enough to get the W. Gentlemen, great work as always. We'll check back in just a bit as we take a look at some of the numbers coming out of this one, and specifically this Raiders team against this Broncos team this season. 2-0. 2 of their 3 wins coming against these Broncos, 27 points per game. It was 32 in the first meeting, and here enough in overtime to get the job done. 6-0 against the Broncos since relocating from Oakland to Vegas.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.